Incredible transformation, CEO husband exposes manager's shocking act. One life changed forever. Jake had clawed his way up from nothing. Raised by a single father who worked late shifts and struggled to make ends meet, he learned early on about grit and resilience. Now, at 35, he was the proud CEO of a thriving small business in a bustling suburban town. His wife, Emma, a dedicated teacher, poured her heart into helping local families who faced similar challenges. Together, they built a home based on love, community, and integrity. But that afternoon, as Jake rifled through office documents, he stumbled upon something that twisted his stomach into knots. There it was, an email thread exposing Mike, his newly hired operations manager, taking credit for the team's work. The frustration burned like fire in his chest. His loyal employees deserved recognition, not to be overshadowed by an ambitious man who wore success like a mask. For days, tension seeped into Jake and Emma's home life like a heavy fog. Dinner conversations turned stilted, each bite filled with unspoken worries. What's the point of this fight for success if it means losing the people who matter? Emma would ask, stirring the pot of pasta, her voice tinged with confusion. Jake faced a gut-wrenching dilemma. Do he confront Mike or protect the loyalty of his employees who represented the very heartbeat of his business? Each reply stormed through his mind, leaving him reeling, and then, the air grew colder when his father suffered a health crisis. The hospital took center stage, replacing the frantic office. With heavy hearts, Jake and Emma found comfort in the community that rallied around them. Meal trains, fundraisers, and genuine support poured in, a suffusion of love that warmed even the darkest hours. Standing by his father's bed, Jake caught glimpses of the faces he grew up with, the neighbors, the friends who made every struggle lighter. In the midst of chaos, he slowly began to see the bigger picture. Maybe Mike wasn't just a villain in this story. He wouldn't blame Jake for feeling the pressure to rise above. Maybe it stemmed from a past of his own hardships. The community event loomed like a freight train, anticipation hung heavy in the air. Jake knew what was at stake. Recognition would unfold in front of friends and neighbors, and he would have his chance to expose Mike. But would that be right? He could practically feel the tension before stage time. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake stood in front of the microphone, the crowd hushed, every eye locked onto him. In this moment, everything felt magnified. The roaring silence heightened his sense of urgency. He could confront Mike and vindicate those who had been wronged, exposing the theft of credit that hurt his team. But was it right to punish someone who could also be fighting their battles? His heart pounded in uncertainty. Bound by the values of truth, but anchored by compassion, Jake took a breath, weighing his options. Just before he spoke, he wondered, was there a way to balance holding someone accountable while still offering understanding? Would he sow division or sew together the broken pieces of ambition and humility in this moment that could shape them all? The crowd waited, and so did Jake, lingering on the edge of a life-altering decision. Would he choose vindication or forgiveness? Time hung like a fragile whisper, and the answer felt just out of reach. Jake's breath quivered in his chest, and a thin layer of sweat beaded on his brow. He was at a crossroads, with each choice laden with weighty implications. The faces within the crowd swam into view, familiar faces, some full of concern, others eager for affirmation. They had all gathered for what they believed was a celebration, but Jake sensed it was much more than that. It was a moment of revelation. With his heart racing, he opened his mouth, ready to guide his statement with conviction. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's clear that our success is built upon the hard work of many, especially my remarkable team." He caught Emma's eye, who was standing in the back, her expression filled with support. That bolstered his strength. As he continued, the reality of Mike's actions loomed in his mind, distant yet insistent. I've seen firsthand how hard everyone has worked to build this business. Yet lately, I learned that not all of that hard work has been recognized fairly." He took a step closer to the edge of the stage, the gaze of the crowd amplifying his resolve. "I believe in accountability, but I also believe in compassion. Each of us has a story, and I know some stories are harder than others." The crowd was quiet, the tension palpable. He could almost hear the collective breath as it caught in the throats of his friends and co-workers. In that moment of honesty, he chose a different path. Today, this isn't about pointing fingers at anyone. Instead, it's about reminding ourselves that we are stronger together. Success isn't just a matter of who gets credit. It's about the teamwork, the collaboration, and the fight we all put in, side by side, even while facing personal struggles. He wanted Mike to hear this message as well. Jake could see him at the back, his face morphed into an expression that matched many others, surprise mixed with apprehension. Jake felt a rush of empathy toward him. Maybe Mike wasn't driven purely by ambition, perhaps he was simply lost in the chaos of his own insecurities. "Let us build a culture that embraces not only recognition but understanding," Jake said, feeling the words seep from his soul. "We must ensure that every member of our team knows that they matter. We won't just chase success alone, we will bring each other along with us." Applause broke out softly at first, then crescendoed into a wave of cheers that jolted through him. Jake could see the relief on Emma's face, the pride etched in his employees' smiles. He had done it. He hadn't thrown Mike under the bus, and instead, he had offered them all a bridge towards healing. The evening unfolded with laughter and camaraderie. Under the shimmering lights of the venue, friends and co-workers mingled, sharing the warmth of community. Still, part of Jake's heart lingered on what he had said to Mike. There was something unfinished there, a conversation that needed to happen outside the glow of the celebration, and just as he was lost in thought, Mike approached him, a hesitant look in his eyes. Jake squared his shoulders, expecting anything: the confrontation, apologies, perhaps even silence. "Can we talk?" Mike asked, his voice low. Suddenly, Jake felt the tight knot of anticipation twisting in his gut again. Would this be a moment of reckoning? Would Mike take accountability for his actions, or would it spiral into defensiveness and regret? As the crowd faded from his mind, only one thought surged through Jake: whatever might happen, it was time to face it head on. With a nod, Jake stepped away from the crowd, ready to confront the unpredictable path ahead. Jake led Mike away from the laughter and music, their footsteps echoing slightly against the venue's walls. The energy of the celebration felt like a distant hum, replaced by the weight of the moment. He could sense the air thickening around them, filled with unspoken words and emotions waiting to burst. As they stepped into a quieter corner, the dim lighting cast shadows on Mike's face, making him appear smaller, more vulnerable. Jake couldn't help but feel a flicker of sympathy. This was a man caught in a storm of his own making, one that had led to deep fractures within the team. "What do you want to say?" Jake asked, his voice firm but not unkind. He folded his arms, trying to project an air of confidence. Mike shifted his weight, his eyes flickering away for a moment. I appreciate what you said back there," he stammered. "I know I messed up. I didn't think it would come to this. I thought I was doing what was best." His voice cracked slightly, betraying the tension he had been holding in. Jake felt a pang of frustration mixed with empathy. "You don't need to justify your actions, Mike. What happened hurt people. It created a divide. Your focus on recognition overshadowed the team's true spirit." I know, Mike said, rubbing the back of his neck. "But I've been feeling pressure to achieve, to impress, to keep up. And I thought if I didn't fight for my spot, I wouldn't survive in this world." Jake inhaled deeply. It was a familiar struggle, one he had wrestled with himself. The desire to be seen, to be valued in a competitive environment, often twisted logic and blinded people to shared goals. "You're not alone in this, Mike. None of us is. But pushing others down to rise up yourself? That's not gonna work here." The silence that followed felt heavy, filled with the weight of unacknowledged truths. Jake could see the guilt in Mike's eyes, the acknowledgement of his wrongdoing stirring beneath the surface. "How can I fix this?" Mike finally asked, desperation threading his tone. "Start by being honest," Jake suggested cautiously. "Admit your mistakes to the team. They need to know you're willing to take responsibility. You can't lead if you're not willing to show vulnerability." Mike took a step back as if the suggestion struck him hard. "What if they don't forgive me? What if they see me as a failure?" His voice trembled, revealing the doubt that clouded his mind. Jake softened his stance, sensing the turmoil within his colleague. "Everyone makes mistakes. The real failure is refusing to learn from them. They'll respect you more for being honest than if you try to hide it." Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, Jake saw a flicker of resolve in Mike's expression. Perhaps this was the turning point they both needed. "Are you with me?" Jake pressed, feeling a swell of hope. "Together, we can rebuild this team. You don't have to do it alone." Mike nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing just a bit. "Okay, I'll do it. But I'm scared." "Scared can be a good thing," Jake replied, his voice steady. "It means you care. Now let us make this right." As they turned to head back to the celebration, Jake's heart raced with a mixture of uncertainty and determination. They had taken a step together, one that could lead to healing for both the team and for Mike. But the journey ahead was steep, and the consequences still loomed. Just as they reached the edge of the crowd, Emma caught Jake's eye again, a small smile breaking through the earlier tension. But he knew there were deeper issues beneath the surface yet to unravel. With everything starting to shift, he couldn't help but wonder, would rebuilding that trust be enough? They stepped back into the light, and the air around them buzzed with possibility. What would happen when Mike stood up to the team? How would they react? The crowd ebbed and flowed around them, laughter and chatter mixing with the clinking of glasses. Jake could still feel the tension thick between him and Mike. In the heat of the celebration, they seemed like strangers, not the teammates they once were. As they walked together, the weight of the upcoming confrontation loomed larger with every step. Jake searched the faces surrounding them, trying to gauge their mood. He spotted Emma again, her brows were furrowed in concern as she conversed with a couple of team members. He wished he could pull her aside, share this moment, but he knew Mike needed to face this alone. "Okay," Jake said, stopping in front of the gathered team. "Time to do this." Mike's rubbery smile faltered, doubt washing over him as he looked at the group. They all seemed oblivious to the storm brewing just outside their bubble of celebration. But Jake held firm, offering a nod of encouragement. "Remember, they'll see you for who you are now, not just what you've done." Breathing deeply, Mike stepped forward. "Hey everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?" Gradually, conversations quieted, heads turned. The group was mixed, some curious, some uncertain. Mike looked almost small before them, swallowed by their collective gaze. "I know this isn't easy," Mike began, his voice strained. "I've made mistakes that affected all of you. I thought I was protecting myself, but in reality, I hurt our team." Murmurs spread through the crowd, some exchanged knowing glances. Jake stood by, feeling each heartbeat echoing a hope that this would be the turning point. "I've been selfish," Mike continued, visibly shaking. "I wanted the spotlight, and I forgot that teamwork is about lifting each other up, not pushing anyone down. I'm sorry." A tense hush fell over the crowd. Jake could see the uncertainty in their faces. Would they accept his apology? Would they offer forgiveness? And then, almost like magic, Emma stepped forward. "Thank you for saying that, Mike. We've all made mistakes at one point or another. What matters is what we do next." A few others echoed her sentiment, stepping forward to show their support. One by one, they began to share their own struggles, each story weaving a thread of connection among them. Mike's eyes widened in disbelief. "You guys, I didn't expect this. Why should you?" A teammate named Derek said, crossing his arms but with a softening expression. But you should know we're all in this together. We'll bounce back, but only if we trust each other. Mike nodded, visibly relaxing as the warmth of acceptance spread through him. Jake felt a weight lift as he exchanged glances with Emma, who had a proud smile on her face. The celebration resumed, but it felt different now. A fresh layer of shared understanding lay over the room. Conversations were livelier, jokes exchanged more freely. Just as Jake started feeling optimistic, he noticed another teammate lingering at the back. Carla remained quiet, her face tight, arms crossed in front of her. Jake hadn't seen her be this closed off since the fallout. He felt a pang of worry. Would she shatter the fragile hope they all just built? Or could she be the key to uniting them all? With resolve, he stepped away from the group and walked toward Carla, the thoughts swirling in his head like wildfire. There was still so much work to be done. "Hey, Carla," he said softly, trying to break through the wall she had built. "Can we talk?" Her gaze finally met his, revealing a world of hurt hidden beneath her tough exterior. He took a breath, realizing the challenge that lay ahead. What would it take to reach her? What was yet to be revealed? Carla's eyes darted away, a shield forming between them. The laughter and music from the crowd faded into the background, leaving an almost tangible silence. Jake could see the conflict written on her face, a mixture of anger, hurt, and a hint of vulnerability. "Why are you bothering me?" she snapped, her voice low but edged with sharpness. "Nothing has changed. You think because Mike said sorry, everything is magically better?" He held his hands up in a gesture of peace. "I just wanted to check in. I know things have been rough, and I figured what?" She crossed her arms tighter, the tension in her stance like a coiled spring ready to snap. "That I'd suddenly forgive him? That we could just go back to how things were? That's not how it works." "Look, I get it," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "But maybe it's not about forgiveness right now. Maybe it's about what we can do, all of us, to make things right together." For a moment, he thought he saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. Then it vanished, buried under layers of disappointment. "Together?" Carla scoffed, her voice laced with sarcasm. "What kind of togetherness are you talking about? The kind that just sweeps everything under the rug? Because I'm tired of pretending everything's fine." Jake's heart raced, but he remained calm. "It's not about pretending, Carla. It's about choosing to be better. We all have our battles, and we need to face them head on. What is hurting you right now? Let me help." She hesitated. The weight of her silence filled the space between them, thick and oppressive. "You really want to know?" she said finally, her voice low, almost a whisper. "More than anything. Sure, I might have seemed like a tough nut. But guess what? I cared about this team. I trusted Mike. We all did. And when he let us down, it ripped through me, through us. I can't just smile and forget that." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she fought them back, turning her head sharply. Jake felt a surge of empathy wash over him. "You don't have to forget," he said gently. "But talking about it might help. We all need that connection." Carla's breath hitched, the tide of emotions crashing like waves. "What if talking isn't enough for me? What if it's too late?" "It's never too late," Jake said, his conviction strong. "It's about taking those first small steps. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Neither do I. We can face this together, like a team." A glimmer of something hope, maybe flickered in her eyes. She focused on him, walls beginning to tremble under the weight of their shared experiences. But before she could say anything more, Derek's voice rang out from the celebration. "Hey, Carla. We need you over here. We're sharing stories." Carla flinched, indecision crossing her features. The mingling voices of the team called to her, vibrating with newfound energy, but the quiet between them hummed with unresolved tension. Jake could see the struggle on her face. He felt an urge to keep her there, to hold on to this moment of revelation. "I'll be right here when you're ready," he promised, his heart pounding. She studied him for a moment, a mix of gratitude and uncertainty shining through. "Okay," she whispered almost to herself before turning away, heading back into the thrumming crowd. Jake felt restless. Each heartbeat fired up with questions: could they really heal? Would the team truly come together? Or was this all just a fleeting moment, soon to break apart again? As he watched Carla merge into the team, Jake's gaze fell on Mike. The man stood in the center of the celebration, laughter radiating around him like a shield. A pang of fear gripped Jake. Could this newfound unity hold up against the deeper fractures waiting to surface? He shook his head, steeling himself as he moved back toward the group. The night felt alive, yet uncertain. What else did they need to face? What other secrets hung in the balance? And then he heard it, a raised voice, sharp and full of accusation, cutting through the jubilant atmosphere. Every head turned as Carla faced Mike again, jaw set, eyes blazing. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Jake felt dread wash over him. This was the moment of truth, and he had no idea how it would unfold. The air hung thick with tension as all eyes shifted toward the heart of the festival. Carla stood strong, her voice steady yet filled with raw emotion. Mike's laughter faltered, replaced by a look of disbelief that rippled through the gathered crowd. "Carla, come on, let us not do this here," Mike said, raising his hands in a half-hearted gesture of defense. "I apologized. Can't we just move on?" "Move on?" Carla echoed, her words slicing through the noise. "Is that really all you've got? It's not that simple. You don't just get to say sorry and expect everything to fall back into place." Jake felt the weight of the moment. He wanted to step in, to say something that might ease the growing conflict. But deep down, he knew this was a conversation that needed to happen. The truth had to spill out. People began to watch, whispers weaving through the crowd, drawing them closer, eager for confrontation. "It's not just about you, Mike," Carla continued, her voice rising, cracking with pent-up frustration. "You let us down. You shattered our trust. I can't just turn a blind eye because you decided it was time to play nice again." Jake could see Mike shift, discomfort creeping across his face. The shield of laughter and joy he had built around himself crumbled with each pointed word Carla unleashed. "I trusted you," she said, her voice shaking slightly now. "We all did. So when you messed up, it hurt, and it still hurts." Mike's brow furrowed, and Jake sensed a flicker of guilt in his eyes. But instead of responding directly, Mike looked around, as if searching for support. "You know, I didn't mean for it to happen like that, right? I thought I was protecting you guys." "Protecting us?" Carla laughed dryly, and the sound felt like a punch. "By hiding the truth? By putting your reputation above our team?" All around them, there were nods and murmurs of agreement. The crowd was beginning to shift, their energy electric with an emotion Jake hadn't seen before: solidarity. Carla had taken the first step, but the room held its breath, waiting for Mike's next move. "Look, I messed up. I know that," Mike finally admitted, his voice lowering. But nothing," Carla interrupted. "You don't get to justify it. Your words don't erase the mess you've made." The silence stretched, thick and unyielding. Jake felt the pulse of the moment wrap around them. Here was a chance, to forge something new from the ashes of betrayal, but only if they faced it together. He took a step closer, feeling the weight of Carla's courage. "Carla's right, Mike," he said, his voice steady and firm. "It's not just about apologies. It's about actions. It's about understanding the impact of what happened and working to rebuild that trust." The crowd shifted again, a collective understanding forming. Carla turned to him, surprise mingling with hope in her eyes. For a fraction of a second, he saw her pain mingling with a sense of community as others chimed in, questioning, challenging Mike's casual dismissal of the issues at hand. The darkness that had hovered like a storm cloud began to break, just a little. Emotions were raw, but it felt like they were on the precipice of something significant. The night was electric, alive with potential. I want to make things right, Mike said quietly, the bravado slipping away. And for the first time, Jake thought he saw a seed of sincerity. But what would it take to truly make things right? Then show us, Carla challenged, removing the final barrier between them. Show us that you mean it. No more words. Just actions. As the moment hung there, Jake's heart raced with the uncertainty of what was to come. Would Mike rise to the occasion? Or was this too big a mountain to climb? He could only watch, helpless yet hopeful, as they stood on the brink of change, and in that charged silence, all eyes were on Mike. Was he truly ready to fight for the team he'd let down? The question lingered heavily in the air, and with it, the fate of their bonds hung in the balance. The crowd's anticipation felt almost electric, a mix of tension and hope swirling through the festival's night air. Jake could see the weight of expectation resting heavily on Mike's shoulders. The glimmer of sincerity in his eyes was barely enough to light the way through the dark storm of consequences that lay ahead. "Okay," Mike finally said, his voice a quiet tremor against the louder murmurs of the crowd. I get it. I know I need to do better. But I need your help. I can't do it alone." Jake leaned in a little closer, straining to catch every word. There was something about this moment that felt like a fragile lifeline, a turning point. The crowd's energy shifted again, their eyes filled with a blend of skepticism and a spark of renewed faith. It was a delicate balance, one that could tip either way. "Help? You think we should just sit back and help you fix your mistakes?" Carla's voice rang out, resolute and filled with a mix of defiance and a need for accountability. "You put us in this situation. It's time for you to step up." The crowd nodded in agreement, their solidarity echoing through the square like an anthem. It was beautiful and terrifying. Jake couldn't help but feel the momentum building, yet within him, a clenching worry grew. What if Mike couldn't be trusted to carry through? Silence pulled taut as Mike took a deep breath, his expression shifting to one of determination. "I know I messed up, and I'm ready to prove that I can change. Just give me that chance. I want to let you down again." Carla looked at him, searching for something beyond the words. Could she trust him? Could they trust him? "You have to show us how. This isn't just about words anymore. It's about real actions that mean something." "I will," Mike exclaimed, hands trembling as he clenched them at his sides. "I want to take responsibility, not just for what I did, but for our team moving forward. Let's set up a plan together." The crowd shifted, curiosity peaked. Murmurs of agreement started to rise. "Yes," someone shouted, empowerment echoing through the gathering. "Let's hold him accountable." Jake's heart pounded as Mike stood tall, now willing to walk the line both as a leader and as someone who had let them down. There was a slight hitch in the air, a gentle glimmer of hope being nudged forward. It felt like a collective breath held tight, ready to exhale into action. "How do you plan to start?" Carla challenged, folding her arms over her chest defiantly. The dim light of the festival made her expression almost fierce. "I'll start by confessing everything, every detail." Mike's voice cracked as he spoke. "I'll share it all with the team. And more importantly, I will put more effort into supporting each of you, listening to your concerns, and rebuilding the trust one broke. Should we set up regular meetings?" A ripple of surprise swept through the spectators, eyes wide and mouths agape. This wasn't the reaction many expected. They had waited so long for a moment like this, a chance for healing, and here it was, hanging delicately before them. "Regular meetings sound like a start, but you need to do more than just words, Mike," Carla pressed. "Actions have to follow." "I understand," Mike said, almost pleading. "I'm ready to face the music. I'll work harder than I ever have to prove that I mean it. But I need your support and trust again." The crowd buzzed with questions, uncertainty mingling with optimism. Jake felt adrenaline coursing through him, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. This was a moment to seize, but would it actually lead to something meaningful? Just then, the festival fireworks exploded in a brilliant burst of color overhead, momentarily distracting everyone from the raw discussions unfolding below. It was as if the universe was holding its breath with them, waiting for the next move. In the face of bright lights and laughter, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. Could this really be the beginning of rebuilding what had been broken? As he looked at Carla and then at Mike, he realized that the hardest part was still ahead of them. What would it take for trust to be reborn? Would they truly weather this storm together, or were they merely igniting another one? The night carried an intoxicating mixture of hope and fear, captivating their hearts, setting the stage for what came next. As the bright trails of the fireworks faded into the dark sky, a charged silence fell over the crowd. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath, waiting for anything to shift. Jake felt the air thick with uncertainty, yet beneath that, there lay a fragile thread of anticipation. Mike, Carla finally broke the stillness. If you really want our trust back, you need to start now. It starts with honesty. No more half-truths. No hiding. Mike nodded, his nervousness revealing itself as he rubbed the back of his neck. It was a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes. I promise, Carla. I've got nothing to hide anymore. Just let me show you. Jake glanced around the crowd. Eyes were fixed on Mike, assessing his sincerity. Some faces were still stormy, uncertain if they wanted to believe this newfound resolve. Yet there were also expressions of hope. They wanted to believe. They all longed for something to cling to. Taking a deep breath, Mike began sharing his truth. Last month, when things spiraled out of control, I made choices that were selfish and hurtful. I didn't consider how it would impact you all. I was overwhelmed, and instead of leaning on the team, I shut everyone out. He paused, the weight of guilt slumping his shoulders, the murmurs in the crowd quieted, a sense of shared understanding beginning to unfurl. People around Jake exchanged glances, some nodding as they related to that sense of isolation. I thought I was protecting you, by keeping things to myself. Mike continued, his voice gaining strength. But I see now how that hurt our team. I want to fix that. I want to rebuild not just trust, but a sense of community among us. Laughter erupted from the back of the crowd. You think we're a community now? You need to prove it. A voice shouted, a challenge that echoed in the dark, sparking a wave of support among others. Jake's heart raced. This was the moment. The time for transformation was now. What do you need from us, Mike? He called out, not knowing if Mike would have the answer. I need you to hold me accountable. Mike's voice rang out, steadier now, as he stepped forward. I want specific goals, feedback, and, if I falter, I need each of you to call me out. Let us build this together, step by step. That sounded reasonable, like a fresh start was dawning. A few tentative cheers echoed out, slowly growing in momentum. Carla looked skeptical but intrigued, her arms still crossed defensively over her chest. Maybe we could create a buddy system or mentorship among us, someone from the crowd suggested, their voice trembling with both excitement and trepidation. We keep each other accountable. Let us do that. Jake felt his own voice ringing with unexpected confidence. We can meet every week. Each of us can share our struggles, and Mike can especially share his journey as he faces these challenges. The prospect of regular meetings shifted something in the crowd, the idea settled in like a calm after a storm. Carla's stance softened a bit, uncrossing her arms. This was the direction they craved. I'll schedule the first meeting, Carla said, her voice steady once more. We can't fix everything overnight, but we can start laying the groundwork right now. And just like that, the energy shifted. The festival lights danced over their faces as anticipation spiraled into action. Mike's shoulders seemed to lift as hope started to seep in, yet, Jake caught lingering expressions of doubt among some faces. Could they sustain this momentum? Would Mike follow through? What if the cracks beneath the surface ran deeper than they could see? As night darkened, casting long shadows over the square, it seemed that the weight of their new journey hung in the air, frail but palpable. Would this adventure finally forge the bond they so desperately needed, or was it just the beginning of another cycle? And as everyone began to disperse for the night, one resounding truth hung overhead like the fading fireworks: trust isn't merely built on promises but on consistent actions that follow. What would Mike do next? How would he prove himself worthy of their faith? These questions echoed in Jake's mind long after the last firework dimmed. The following week felt like a tightrope walk for Jake. Each day was filled with tension wrapped in anticipation. The air buzzed with unspoken questions. What would Mike do? Would he follow through on his promise? And could they truly build that community they all craved? As the day of the first meeting approached, Mike's nervous energy was palpable. Jake caught sight of him outside the community center, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. The evening sun cast long shadows, mirroring the weight Mike carried on his shoulders. "Hey," Jake called softly, stepping alongside Mike. Mike stopped and ran a hand over his face. "I'm scared, man. What if they don't show?" The vulnerability in his voice tugged at Jake's heart. "They'll be there," he assured. "They want this to work. They want to trust you again." The doors opened, and people started filtering in. Each familiar face brought a mix of hope and skepticism, emotions swirling in the room as friends and teammates settled into their seats. Carla was there, her arms crossed in that familiar defensive posture. "All right, everyone," Jake began, his voice steady as he stood at the front. "Thanks for coming. We all know why we're here. Mike has agreed to take a step forward, and we're here to support him. But let us make this real. We've got to hold each other accountable." Nods echoed through the crowd, but Jake could see the tension still lingering. Mike finally stood up, and the room quieted. "Thank you for being here," he started, looking around at their faces, a mix of friends, teammates, and companions. "I want to lay it all on the table tonight. I can't just talk, I need to hear from you. What did I do that hurt you?" A weighty silence fell, thick with unspoken feelings. Eventually, a voice broke through the hush. It was Sarah, a teammate whose eyes reflected both hurt and strength. "You made us feel like we didn't matter. You vanished when we needed you. It was like you'd chosen something else over us." The honesty of her words stung, and Mike visibly flinched. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I know I hurt you. Will you help me rebuild?" More voices chimed in, each sharing their own experiences of disappointment and confusion. Jake felt the air grow heavier, yet there was something gentle rising from the ashes, healing. Carla, who had stayed quiet until then, took a deep breath. "If we're doing this, I want to share, too. I felt like I lost a friend. The laughter we had. It disappeared, and I didn't know how to cope." Her eyes glistened, honest and raw. Mike's gaze dropped, but he nodded. "Thank you for sharing that. I want to make it right, but I need you guys to guide me." As they began to open up, the atmosphere shifted. The reservations melted away, and the tone shifted from blame to understanding. Ideas started flowing. Jake felt a flicker of optimism. They weren't just going to talk, they were building bridges between gaps that had almost erased their friendships. "I think we need to do fun activities together," someone suggested. "Bonding exercises that don't involve talking about work. Just us, you know. Let us do a team outing." "Yeah." Another voice chimed in. "A bowling night or something. Laughter could help us remember why we care." Excitement spread through the group like a wildfire. They brainstormed late into the night, mapping out plans filled with laughter and support. Mike stood back, watching them come alive, slowly stepping toward hope. But amidst the warmth, a shadow loomed in Jake's mind. The doubts weren't gone. He couldn't shake the question, would it last? Would this renewed spirit of vulnerability and connection deepen into something that could withstand the tests ahead? As their laughter faded and the meeting wrapped up, Jake's heart felt full, yet cautious. One thing was clear, they had taken the first step into the unknown, but the jagged uncertainties lingered on the edges. What would it take for their newfound bond to thrive? And would Mike be able to withstand the pressures of accountability? The night ended, but Jake's unease trembled just beneath his excitement, begging for answers that danced just out of reach. The community center was buzzing with energy as the day of the first team outing dawned bright and promising. Jake arrived early, heart racing with a cocktail of excitement and worry. Would this outing solidify their bond or merely serve as a temporary band-aid? Mike stood beside him, visibly nervous. "You ready for this?" Jake asked, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Mike nodded, but there was still a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "I just hope everyone shows and that I don't mess this up." "They're here for you, Mike," Jake reassured him, glancing around to spot familiar faces filtering in. Carla, her hair tied in a loose bun, arrived with a firm expression. Jake noticed her demeanor had softened since the last meeting. Maybe this outing would do more than build bridges, it would also mend hearts. As more teammates trickled in, laughter and chatter filled the air. The energy was infectious, pulling everyone together like magnets. Jake could see tensions melting away as people broke into groups, chatting, catching up, sharing stories about their lives outside of work. "Okay, everyone," Jake called out, trying to round everyone up. "Let us get started. Tonight's about more than just bowling, it's about us as a team." They organized into lanes, laughter echoing through the alley. Mike donned an exuberant smile. "I've always wanted to have fun with the team more. It feels good to be here, you know." "Remember, no pressure," Jake teased. "Just roll those balls and let us cheer for each other." With the sound of crashing pins, the night unfolded. Bonds began to form in places they didn't expect. Each strike was celebrated like an Olympic win, smiles brightening the room. Slowly, it transitioned from mere teamwork to something deeper. They shared more than just laughter, there were shared vulnerabilities and growth, a mixture of forgiveness and excitement. Halfway through, Mike turned to the group, a light of inspiration in his eyes. "Hey, can I take a moment to say something?" "Sure." The group echoed, intrigued. "I really appreciate everyone being here. Last month was tough for all of us, but seeing you all tonight, laughing, having fun, it reminds me why I wanted this team to be my family." He paused for a moment, looking around, eyes locking with Jake's. "I've learned that accountability is about community, not just words. It's actions, and I'm ready to show you that I mean it. If you'll help me along the way." The sincerity in his voice filled the air, and Jake felt the ripple of warmth return. "We've got your back, Mike," Carla spoke up, surprising even herself. "We're all learning, and that's what matters." A cheer erupted, igniting laughter and applause. The team felt united, and the night transformed. Each frame, each gutter ball, and each strike connected them in a way that hadn't been present before. As the night drew to a close, the bowling alley glowed with warmth, the evening closing in on joyful camaraderie. Everyone gathered in a circle, exhausted yet exhilarated. Someone shouted, "Let us make this a monthly thing." "Definitely." Another voice chimed in, hope hung in the air like the scent of fresh popcorn wafting through the room. They had taken the first solid steps on a long road of rebuilding, but it felt sturdy, tangible. They understood that trust was a marathon, not a sprint, cultivated through every small action and acknowledgement. As they began to depart, Jake noticed Mike lingering, a satisfied smile on his face. "Thanks, Jake," he said quietly. "For what?" Jake replied, genuinely confused. "For giving me this second chance. I want to let you down." With a fathomless hope sparking in his heart, Jake replied, "Just keep showing us the real you." For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel daunting. It sparkled with promise, radiant with the possibility of enduring transformation. Together, They would face the waves and find their way. As the door swung shut behind them, Jake knew this was just the beginning. They had conquered the first mountain, but there were countless valleys and peaks ahead. No matter what lay in the path, he felt certain they were stronger together. They were ready to grow, to face their struggles with resilience, and ignite their shared legacy one step at a time. So, as they stepped into the night, hearts lighter, it became clear, this was not just a business team. They had become a family committed to growth, understanding, and most importantly, compassion. Each one of them forever changed because of this journey. And thus, the first chapter of their renewed story closed, promising more exciting adventures to come. Now, it's your turn to join our community. If you haven't already, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know how much you loved this transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.